Good morning and welcome back to the Friday Club Break Time with interviews. This week I'm really lucky to have Navneet Kaur with us, Deputy Head of Communications at the British School in New Delhi. Navneet, thank you so much for joining us today. We're really lucky to have you here.
Delighted to be here. Thank you, Sophie.
You're so welcome. It's our privilege listening to you today. Just before we jump into some really interesting topics that I know we've got planned to discuss this morning, Navneet, will you be able to tell us a little bit more about yourself, your school, and how you got into marketing and communications there?
Sure. So I currently work at the British School New Delhi as the Deputy Head of Communications. And previously I was with the UCL Institute of Education in London and with the British Council. I started my career actually primarily in alumni relations, and I've gradually moved to a purely communications role, which I enjoy very much. I've been at the school for a decade now, and it's a great place to work at. We are a 58-year-old, not-for-profit international school. And when I say international, I don't mean just in name, I mean truly in character. We have a multicultural transient student body. There are over 1,200 students from 65 nationalities who thrive in a safe, stimulating, and happy space. We offer the National Curriculum of England, followed by the IGCSE and the IB Diploma program. We are a progressive school. We are international in our outlook, but also deeply rooted in the host country's culture and rich Indian history. We won the award for the best British school in the world in 2019, awarded by ISA International School Awards. And we are heavily oversubscribed and a very sought after school for both students and teachers who wish to work here.
And it's really easy to see why, I think, Navneet, because your school has got so much going for it. It's really interesting hearing more about what you're doing, how the students find it, what families say about the school. One of the things that I was really keen to talk to you about today is that I know that you helped to create a communication strategy back in 2019. And I'm wondering, there'll be some other schools who might be listening to this who might be in the position of redefining their own comms strategy or perhaps creating one for the first time. Are you able to tell us a little bit more, Navneet, about what your communication strategy is and why was that the right time to redefine your strategy?
Sure. So when it comes to communications, a lot of schools go through the too much, too little conundrum. And we were no different. So some people would think we are bombarding them with information, while others would think that they just don't know enough. And it can be tough for schools to strike the right balance because not everything is applicable to everyone, and parent involvement can also vary from one family to another. And there are time and resource constraints. So it was important for us to make sure that the right message was reaching the right people through the right channel, that information wasn't getting lost in the process or messages weren't being ignored by recipients because it wasn't relevant to them. So we built a cohesive, forward-looking communication strategy. And one of the big things that we did was to bring about differentiation in our channels of communication for internal and external stakeholders. And then there are also several other strands under it. So for example, we started studying data analytics more closely. We centralized our internal communications through our portal called Firefly. We formulated branding guidelines. We expanded the team and hired a video content creator. There's a whole lot that we did. But what has been at the core of all of this is effective communication. So it's now been 2 years, but the strategy is dynamic in nature. We take on board new ideas and we learn as we go along, whether it is emerging technologies or TikTok trends. So we follow industry trends closely and look at what is relevant for us and can be adapted to our context.
Brilliant. So in your personal opinion then of being Deputy Head of Communications at the British School in New Delhi, why do you think that differentiating content across those different channels was so crucial for you at that time?
So schools primarily communicate with two groups of people. Internal, that would be your immediate community, and external, which is mainly your prospective families and alumni. Now, because the makeup and nature of the two groups is quite different from their understanding of your school and what they expect from you, their relationship with you, if you segregate the information instead of broadcasting everything to everyone, your messages automatically start making more sense to readers because they're more focused, they are targeted. So, for example, one of the things that we did was that we removed everything aimed at the internal community from our website and moved it to a virtual learning environment or portal called Firefly. So, our
Yes.
website now only talks to people not currently part of the school community. And Firefly has everything for our internal community, and that includes everything from student homework and reports to messages for parents, any important forms, staff handbooks, policies, everything that our immediate community needs to know. So when you've covered all of that, your external and internal, what is left is your events and activities that can give you a peek into life at TBS. So for that, we use social media. Now, we've purposely never used our social media channels for making announcements such as, let's say, school is closing early tomorrow, or parent-teacher conference at 3 p.m. Please turn up on time, because all of that is aimed at internal community. So
Yeah.
Firefly takes care of all of that. Social media for us is celebration of life at TBS. So we showcase our events, student awards, staff achievements, milestones. So to us, it's a celebration of being a member of the TBS family.
Yeah. And that vision for your communications, it sounds like that's really at the heart of every time you decide to communicate with either the existing parent community or the prospective parent community. You're thinking, okay, what is the message and how should I communicate it? Where should I put that message? So that's really interesting. And you've mentioned yourself there, Navneet, your school website. And I think if we perhaps start there, because I know that there'll be schools listening who see their website as being this huge piece of content that actually might cater to lots of different audiences. And yet you've chosen at the British School in New Delhi to use that solely for the external community, so prospective parents. In your particular communication strategy, what does the role of the website look like for you, and what results have you seen by using it as a tool for prospective parents in the first instance?
So through our website, we promote TBS as a school of first choice for families, as an attractive employer for people wishing to work here, and as a center of excellence for educators, peers, and other schools. And I'll give you a little backstory. So our previous website was a bit of a mishmash. It offered a whole mix of information to a variety of people. So we sat down when we were redoing the whole thing. We sat down and we thought, okay, who are these people visiting our website? What are they looking for? And what's the best way for us to offer that information to them? So breaking it down like that helped give the website a purpose, a very clear, defined direction. Also, because most of our parents, when they apply to us, are not even in India. They haven't stepped foot in India. They haven't seen the school ever. So we strongly felt that the website needed to reflect our aspirations, our identity, and show them what we stand for. So if I were to talk about visual changes, we experimented with the gradient color effect, which was in vogue about 2 or 3 years ago. And you will see that there's minimal text on the website. There's a lot of visuals instead, a lot of photos that speak to you, that tell a story, and lots of relevant videos as well. So basically, it is designed to give users a chance to experience life at TBS, no matter what part of the world they're in. So even if you spend, say, under 30 seconds on it, you'll get a feel or a little flavor of what it's like to be at TBS.
Absolutely. And I think as a prospective parent, you of course want to see students having a good time and being successful at the school. And I think you do that really, really well on your website. One of the other things that really stands out on your school's website is the thought leadership blogs that you have there. And I know that you've told me that you agree they're a real highlight of your website in the past. Why do you think they are so powerful, Navneet?
So yes, it is a key highlight of the website and we're very proud of it. So our Thought Leadership blog is host to a rich library of thought-provoking content and reflections of our academic community. And it isn't about reporting on events or milestones. It's a treasure trove of all the collective knowledge and wisdom that we as a school have gained over the last 58 years. So we will talk about on our blog, we talk about our approaches to teaching and learning, our pedagogy, the magic that takes place inside the classroom, and the impact that that has on our students, or our best practices. So essentially, it is a space for educational discourse. And if I may, in the spirit of continuous improvement and collaboration, I invite everyone who's watching this to visit the thought leadership section of our website. You're sure to find something thought provoking in there.
I think it's a really good way of staying current, having something useful to say with that community as well. I was really impressed with it.
Thank you.
I think blogs are a way of giving this personal insight into a school. And the other thing that you're doing, which I think is really interesting, is your videos. And Navneet, you've told me before that you now have an in-house videographer. And one of the things that I've seen working with schools marketing teams is that this trend of video being the new norm for content is probably here to stay for a long time. I'm really interested as to your thoughts on why you think video is so important now.
So yeah, you got it spot on. Video marketing is a major trend. I mean, people's attention spans are just getting shorter and shorter. So snackable content works really well. I mean, these days when there's so many ways of for us to consume content and information is, quite literally being thrown at us from different sources. So organizations are all competing to get eyeballs and engagement. But the thing with videos is that most of them will autoplay. So you automatically buy those 3 seconds of a person's time in which they decide whether or not they wish to continue watching your video. Now, mind you, I'm not saying that it's a replacement for good content. I mean, your content always has to be relevant. It has to appeal to your users, has to be relevant, be on point. I mean, every post must serve a purpose. But videos just make it easy to tell your story in a manner that appears more authentic and less salesy, so to speak. Yeah.
So what type of content are you putting out there then, and with what frequency in terms of video?
So normally we post videos. A lot of it is just school events and activities because our school is always buzzing with excitement, something or the other is always going on. So one is that. Then if we have any special occasions, then we have messages from our senior leadership team. When we reopened after the lockdown, we made a couple of videos about the new health and safety procedures and protocols that had been brought into place because we wanted to allay any apprehensions that people may have had about returning to the school.
Yeah.
And then another thing we've started is a Know Your Teacher campaign. So where we share fun facts about members of our staff, just so that people get to know a little bit about them as a person, beyond the teacher that they are. And then our students are amazing. They do quite a lot of work with community service. So they're very involved and committed to helping the wider community. So we also tell their stories in the form of videos. And of course, having a full-time video content creator has really helped us add a new dimension to digital offerings. But while I say that, I also realize that all schools may not have the resources to have a person dedicated to creating videos. But to them, I'd say that they can take the help of apps. I mean, there are many tools available that can help you edit your videos. You can optimize them for mobile viewing, and some of them are even free. So it's definitely worth trying out. Like, even if you start with, say, one video in 2 weeks, you will see the impact on engagement pretty soon. It's definitely a try.
Absolutely. And for schools, Navneet, that perhaps don't have the resources to have an in-house videographer full-time with them, but they might want to dip their toe in the water of creating some first videos, say they're in a starting phase with that. What types of video have you found have been the most impactful for you?
So mostly if you cover school events or activities, anything with students in it, where you see students together creating something, making something, enjoying and having fun, is something that definitely gets a lot of views and a lot of engagement. Also, parents like watching their kids in the videos, so that's an added benefit. But I think if you show students doing something meaningful, impactful, that really makes a difference.
Definitely. And I personally love this idea of as a parent, being able to see the school as more than just a building where we'll teach and learn. You can see a quick snapshot of a story. This is what these children did today, and this is the teacher that will teach English or maths or biology in a classroom. I think that's really powerful. I imagine that your videos are really useful for your social media channels too. So you have over 30,000 followers across all of your various social media accounts, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn and Twitter. And one thing that's really intrigued me when I was looking at your social media channels, Navneet, is that you actually have very different types of content across all 4 of those channels. Could you tell us a bit more about why you decided to do that and what the differentiation looks like for you?
Sure. So, social media is often referred to as a generic group of channels to share information. But when you have 30,000 followers across platforms, you can't be serving them all the same thing. It's a diverse group of people, and the reasons they follow us will also therefore be varied. So, again, we felt that it was important to do segmentation and not cross post or mirror content, even though it's easier and faster. So, we studied our followers across channels and we try to understand their profile and derive at what they must be wanting for us. And based on that, we gave each channel its own distinct identity. And since then, we've seen engagement go up because to each group, we are giving what they seek. So we carefully handpick and craft the stories that we publish on each channel. And to give you a bit more insight into our social media world, so our Instagram and Facebook followers are mostly our community, immediate community, and also prospective families and alumni. So on Insta and Facebook, you will find that you get a taste of school life with a focus on students, student council activities, school events and milestones, student achievements and celebrations. Um, we have a huge following on LinkedIn, where our followers are mostly our current staff members, prospective employees, and also educators, peers, and other schools. So, LinkedIn to us is all about knowledge sharing. So, every time there's a new blog post on a thought leadership blog on the website, we announce that on LinkedIn. And our staff are all high achievers and very accomplished. So, we showcase our staff achievements as well. And as a school, we also do quite a bit of work with capacity building for educators in other schools in the region and also internationally. So, we do that through trainings and workshops. So, we also promote them on LinkedIn. And then Twitter, lastly, does everything that LinkedIn does, but also includes classroom activities because we have departments and teachers running their own Twitter accounts. And that gives you an insight into what goes on in the classroom, not only on special occasions, but almost on a daily basis. So you can see students working together and you can see samples of their work. But an interesting trend that I'd like to share with you that we've noticed recently is that our Facebook engagement has been steadily going down, even though it has more number of followers than Instagram. So our posts will get views, but the engagement is pretty low. Whereas on Instagram, um, not only is engagement higher, it's also more meaningful. And I believe this is down to the fact that most people are moving away from what may be seen as a traditional social media channel, that is Facebook, to something that is more contemporary, more visual, and offers a better mobile experience. And I think this trend is so telling of the state of the country that we operate in, because I'm not sure if you're aware, but India is amongst the countries with the world's youngest populations globally. And young people, as we all know, are early adopters of new technologies and new media, new platforms. So this will be a trend that we will be following closely in the time to come.
So do you find that many of your parents will be of this generation then that uses Instagram in their own personal life?
Yes, so both on Instagram and Facebook, we have quite a few parents, and we see the new parents that join us, we find that they tend to join Instagram instead of Facebook. So Facebook, our followers on Facebook are something like 13,000 something, I think now. But most of them are people who have been following us for many years. But people who join the school now are new parents, tend to join Instagram instead of
So
Facebook.
the growth is in Instagram rather than Facebook.
Yes.
Okay, that's
Even
really
though
interesting.
our followers have still remained on Facebook. They haven't stopped following us, but the engagement is low. So it probably means that they don't go to Facebook that often.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
And Navneet, I'm wondering, there might be some schools that do mirror their content across all of their social media channels. Do you find that it's a lot of extra work and resource to differentiate what you're saying on which channel?
It can be. And it totally depends on what your focus is as a school. So if you're a school with limited resources, you don't have very many people in your team. Some schools have one-person teams.
Yeah.
And hats off to them. I don't know how they do that. So
Yeah.
to a school like that, then yes, it makes absolute sense to mirror content, because then you don't have to do the same thing into 4 times, you know. Um, so it really depends on what you are trying to achieve through the messaging, through the information that you're sending out to your community. So,
Definitely.
I mean, there's no right or wrong. It just
Yeah.
depends on where you are and where you want to be. And if
Yeah.
at that point in time you think that this works for you, mirroring content works for you, go for it. But we had done that for many years, but then we felt that we needed to move on from there. And that's when we decided to bring in differentiation. And that has worked fantastically for us.
Absolutely. And it sounds like it's been really impactful for you. I'm curious as to what the trigger point was for you at your school, from moving away from mirroring content across channels to differentiating across channels.
So we felt that we were reaching a sort of a plateau, if I may say,
Yep.
you know, and also that we weren't sure if information was reaching the right people. So because there's a variety of messages that we send out. So we may be talking about school awards. We may be talking about a fantastic blog post that's been written by somebody in school, by a teacher. We may be talking about staff awards and achievements, student awards and achievements. Now all of these to us have different audiences, right? So and we thought that what's the best place to send these messages out. So as I said previously, we reviewed our followers, we studied our followers, we looked at their profiles, and we tried to derive at what they must be looking at from us. And that's when we started doing this differentiation. We brought this segmentation in, and we saw immediately engagement go up in just a few weeks' time.
That's great. So I guess the takeaway there then is, if you are seeing some plateau, don't be afraid to try and do something different and test it out, see what works.
Totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. So that's really, really insightful. Thank you so much, Navneet. I know that so many people will be able to take some tips and advice away from that. Before we do wrap up, we have obviously a very famous question here on the Friday Club that we ask our guests, which is, what is your favourite thing about working in schools marketing and communications?
Oh, so much.
Yeah.
So it allows me to be creative. It allows me to tell stories, tell stories innovatively, creatively. I also enjoy writing, being able to put my thoughts and ideas down on paper. So working in communications allows me to do that. What's also interesting is that it's almost a prerequisite of the job to keep up with trends and new media. So I get to remain up to date with industry trends almost by default. So I like that. And of course, working at TBS means that because we're an international school, it means that I get to meet people from all around the world and learn from them. And when you work at a school, having children around really helps keep the office environment very lively and young and happy. So I love that.
Absolutely. And I think that lively, young environment comes across in all of your content. I've really enjoyed having a look through it. And I've really enjoyed speaking with you today. Thank you so much for joining us. You've been an absolutely brilliant guest. And I know that our subscribers will take so much value out of our time today. So we're really grateful.
Thank you so much, Sophie. Thank you for having me.